Toronto is a world-class city, and in this video I show you the best places to visit in Toronto. The downtown area is built on a grid, so almost every street goes north-south or east-west, which makes it fairly easy to get around as far as navigation. Traffic in Toronto can be pretty bad, probably some of the worst in North America, so your best option is the subway or walking if possible. That is a sign for the TTC, basically the public transportation. That's the sign you're going to see a lot of, and whenever you're looking for the subway, that's the sign you're looking for. This is a constant construction in Toronto. It's really growing. It's been really growing for decades now. It's the third biggest city in North America. Yeah, fourth biggest city after Mexico City, New York, and Los Angeles, and then Toronto. There's a good chance that you will step out into Toronto at Union Station, and so that is where I'm going to start this video. Union Station is the transportation hub for all of the Greater Toronto area. And it's also a beautiful building that is worth seeing just for its architecture. Union was built in 1927 and is Canada's busiest train station. Really close to Union Station, you have three great attractions: the CN Tower, Rogers Centre, and right across the street is actually the Royal York Hotel. The Royal York Hotel is a large historic luxury hotel, and it was completed in 1929. It has over 1,300 rooms. The architecture is really stunning and definitely worth checking out, even if you're not staying at the hotel. About a 10-minute walk from Union Station, you have both the CN Tower, which is the tallest freestanding structure in the Western Hemisphere, and Rogers Centre, where the Major League Baseball Toronto Blue Jays play. You can go up the CN Tower for a fee, or you can just stand at the bottom and take some really great photos and videos. There is also a glass floor and an observation deck for those who are not afraid of heights. The Rogers Centre is home to the Toronto Blue Jays Major League Baseball team, which is the only team in Major League Baseball that is not based in the United States. Blue Jays home games take place from April to September every year, and October if they make the playoffs. Toronto Blue Jays won back-to-back World Series in 1992 and 93, and they haven't won another one since. Ripley's Aquarium of Canada is a large aquarium at the base of the CN Tower and basically right beside Rogers Centre. The Hockey Hall of Fame is a museum and hall of fame. It is dedicated to the history of ice hockey and holds exhibits about players, teams, the National Hockey League, and often the Stanley Cup can be located there. St. Lawrence Market, a huge permanent market in downtown Toronto that's open 6 days a week. The only day it's closed is Mondays. When you're done at the St. Lawrence Market, you can actually walk to the Distillery District along the Esplanade. It's probably about a 10 or 15 minute walk. This is the Distillery District, which used to be a whiskey factory, I believe, way back in the day. Distillery District is a beautiful place to walk around on a nice day. It's really nice here with the old cobblestone streets. Done a really good job in here. The Distillery District in Toronto might be one of my favorite places to see when it's a nice day. Wow, it's super good to walk around here. You're surrounded by good food, so can't really go wrong. I'm gonna walk from the Distillery District over to the Toronto ferry terminal where you can catch ferries to the Toronto Islands. It's about a 20-25 minute walk, and it's a little industrial. You have to go underneath a freeway, the Gardiner Expressway, so you might want to take an Uber over here if you're following the same itinerary. There's no subway that goes near the terminal or the Distillery District. Me, I'll walk though, about 20-25 minutes. Sugar Beach is a sandy beach right in downtown. I'm guessing they brought the sand in here. Those are some of the Toronto Islands. There's a whole bunch of them. If you have the time in your itinerary, that is definitely 100% recommended for a full day trip, really. I think I may do another video just on the Toronto Islands themselves. You can see some of the boats, the ferries out in the water there. Nice bicycle path along Queen's Quay here. Queen's Quay, I think is pronounced. Q-U-A-Y. Definitely another great thing to do when the weather's nice. Toronto really is growing. There's just construction and new buildings everywhere. This is where Yonge Street meets the water and where you can get water taxis. this is at the foot of Bay Street, where Bay Street meets the water, Jack Layton Ferry Terminal, and that's how you get to Toronto Island, the Toronto Islands, plural, unless you want to take the water taxi. This is more common. These get busy, but they go quite often. So here's a map of the Toronto Islands, and the ferry is a very reasonable $9.11 Canadian for one-way ticket. Center Island is the main island, but there are other ones that are less frequented by tourists. Hanlon's Point, clothing optional beach. So these ferries will get you to the Toronto Islands. Online ticket holders and ferry ticket sales. There's a big lineup, there often is, but it moves quick because there's a lot of different ferries. So don't be scared by the lineup. Ferries go really frequently. You can see right in the water right now. There's two on the way over to the island and one on the way back. And that's the island right there. So it's like a 10-minute ride, something like that. Scotiabank Arena is where the Toronto Raptors play, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they host a lot of concerts there as well. There's the Toronto sign. Good place for taking your selfies. In the winter, this little pond turns into an ice skating rink. Oh, they're pulling trucks over there. Charity event. Wow. They're actually pulling those trucks. That's neat. This is kind of like Toronto's Times Square or Shibuya Crossing. The Eaton Centre and Yonge and Dundas is basically like ground zero for being right in the middle of downtown Toronto. Yonge and Dundas Square is basically like a public square right at one of the busiest intersections in Toronto. Pretty empty right now, but they have concerts and events. For those who know Toronto from back in the day, that Sam the Record Man sign is actually an iconic sign for what used to be the biggest record store in downtown Toronto throughout the 70s, 80s, 90s. So they've saved the sign and put it on top of a different building. The Eaton Centre is a huge mall in downtown Toronto, and it is one of North America's busiest malls. Crystal ceiling, home of Team Canada. I like the glass ceiling more than anything else in here. It's pretty neat looking. Psycho Bunny. That sounds cool. Yonge Street is the busiest street in Toronto. Yonge Street's been progressively replacing little businesses with huge businesses and condos. It used to look a lot different back in the day.
How much it will cost?
This is Maple Leaf Gardens, where the Toronto Maple Leafs played hockey until 2004. It was built in 1931, and the Maple Leafs won a lot of Stanley Cups there. Haven't won one since 1967. Now it's a grocery store, and they moved to Scotiabank Arena.
Friend.
nice, really small but nice little park in the middle of basically extreme urban chaos. So Queen's Park in downtown actually means two different things. To the left is the provincial legislature, where they basically make the laws for Ontario, and to the right is a big park. Right beside Queen's Park is the University of Toronto, which is Canada's biggest university. Really nice architecture in here. This would have definitely made the list of the top things to see in Toronto, but it closed down a long time ago, the planetarium. You could see a super cool Dark Side of the Moon show back in the day. The Royal Ontario Museum, commonly known as ROM, is a museum of art, world culture, and natural history. It is the largest museum in Canada and one of the largest museums in North America. The Gardiner Museum is a museum of ceramics, and it is located right across the street from the ROM. This is an entrance into Yorkville, which is basically downtown Toronto's kind of fanciest shopping neighborhood, that and Bloor Street West, which is attached to it. The AGO, the Art Gallery of Ontario, one of the biggest art galleries in North America. Right on the street next to the art gallery is OCAD, the Ontario College of Art and Design. Beside OCAD, there's a little park. This is Queen Street, which is like kind of like a trendy clothing, record stores. Kensington Market is a mix of funky and vintage clothing stores, small independent restaurants, army surplus stores, and various food markets. of Dundas and Bathurst. There's a whole bunch of street food trucks, or containers, I guess. Got myself 3 rice balls from a Japanese place. I'm still loving the Japanese food, even though I've been gone there for a bit. Called Suzumi, right on Dundas Street near Bathurst. Trinity Bellwoods is a huge urban park that goes from Dundas to Queen, right at Crawford Street and Bellwoods Avenue area. This is much more of an urban park compared to High Park. High Park has a lot of forests and hiking trails in the middle of the bushes. This is pure urban. King Street West is considered Toronto's fashion district and historically had many garment makers. Nowadays it has some restaurants and a lot of new condos popping up. Thomson Hall is a concert hall and it is home to the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. So High Park is a huge urban park in the west end of Toronto, which also has forests and a lake, and it's 400 acres, so it's really big. You could probably walk around this park. It'd take you a day or more if you wanted to hit every area. It's absolutely huge. Super pleasant place. Highly recommended when you visit Toronto. So this park has all sorts of terrain. It has paved bike paths, it has forest, it has paths through the forest, like hiking trails, really everything it has as far as terrain. Play hockey here, there's soccer fields, there's swimming pools, there's pretty much everything at this park. And beautiful nature. Definitely one of my favorites in Toronto is High Park. No admission fee too, it's just a huge free public park. Like a community garden, big one. Park has everything. Danforth Avenue is what Bloor Street turns into in the east end of Toronto, and it's commonly known as Greektown as well.